I got my drinky, my sippy. So the other day I went to Walmart and they had the like name brand Starbucks tumblers that you can buy like in the store, like in the Starbucks stores.
Right, right.
But it was at Walmart and it has the logo and it's the one that's like really glittery. It's like
Ooh, I
silver
want that
glitter.
one.
Huh?
I wanted that one.
Same. I've wanted it for like 2 years. And so I was like, shit, how much is it? It was like $14. And I was like, I don't care, I'll buy it. And so, being the white girl that I am, I bought it. And because I spent $14 on it, and I find that astronomical to spend on a
You have
cup,
to use it for everything.
I use it. I've used it for everything.
Yeah,
I just refill it with ice and just carry it around my apartment with me.
that's perfect.
And I'm worried because I leave stuff at work all the time, and I'm afraid I'm going to leave it at work one day. And
I mean, not if it's $14.
I guess not. It's so cute. I've always wanted one. Ugh. Things taste more expensive out of it as well, so,
I bet it does.
it does. It
Real
does.
bougie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back, or welcome for the first time to our channel. As we may have mentioned before, we want to do some TV stuff. But before we start doing that, we wanted to give you guys kind of a video about what we're into as far as television goes, because I think you need to know that before you know where we're coming from with certain things. So that's kind of what this video is about.
It's pretty spread out. I think you have the more typical shows.
How dare you?
But like yours do win more awards. Like yours do.
AKA I have higher quality taste.
Yeah, that's how you want to put it. But like, I don't know. I think I only have one. I think I only have one trash show.
I don't have any trash shows, I don't think, on my top 5. On my honorable mentions, I might. I don't know. I like a lot of trashy TV, but
I mean, that's true.
It is what it is. But this is gonna be like our top 5 favorite shows of all time as of right now in 2018, kind of thing. So, I will say for mine, I think it's hard for me to get like a good top 5 because I tend to get very obsessive over shows that are more recent.
I see. I think it's really hard for me to change. I'm the opposite because I think all of my shows are so far in the back that I remember of like the yesteryear, and I'm like, yes, those are the best shows.
Yeah, I mean, my number like 1 and 2 are older shows, but the other 3 are fairly new / still on.
Yeah.
But again, I think television's gotten better in quality recently, so we're kind of in the golden age, so I guess that's, that could be another reason why. But, yeah. So we're gonna kind of start at top 5, go all, or 5 and go down to 1, our top show. I would say for me, all but my number 1 are kind of negotiable in terms of they can move around quite a bit.
I would agree with that.
And I just kind of picked them.
I think any of my
randomly.
5 could move around.
My number
honestly.
1 can't.
Yeah, that's probably true for you.
My number 1 can't.
I would say my number 5 can't. My number 5
is
is going to stay in number 5.
Oh no, I'm excited for that one. I know which one it is already. But some of these we may not know of each other. I think we have a pretty good guess, though we've known each other for
quite a while.
20 years. So
I think
tough.
we knew each other.
I'll go straight in. And the reason that I put this so low is because I'm anal about it, and it's Game of Thrones is number 5 for me.
Yeah. Oh my god. So is mine.
Oh, so is yours. Wow, that wasn't planned. So let's talk about Game of Thrones, because it's a great show. It's wonderful.
It is a great
beautiful.
Show.
The production's phenomenal. I'm a book reader, so I'm very anal about some of the stuff that they did, and I don't really like the writing direction they did with some things, but I'm not going to go like straight into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read the book, so I think I'm still coming at it from the same perspective, because there are some things that I can see that are missing.
And I tell you about the books.
Correct. It's that, and I think the acting's phenomenal, which is why it's in the top 5. And the costumes are phenomenal. Like, it's a great show. You're not going to get much better, except for my other 4. But I think I think there's just some things that I would like to change or
Yeah,
improve. Maybe not
yeah.
change.
I'm not a huge fan of kind of I guess the direction that it's gone. I'm not such a
I
huge
think where
fan
it's
of
going as well, but I think where it's gone is
yeah, if that
questionable.
makes any sense. I feel like it's really hyped right now. Like we're looking at the Emmys being a couple weeks ago, and like when Peter Dinklage won the Emmy for Game of Thrones, and then Game of Thrones won for Show of the Year, I was really surprised. And I read a bunch of stuff where people were saying, "What? How?" Because
Yes.
this was technically I think one of their worst seasons. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, but this was the first season that went off the books, kind of, and well, a lot, but it wasn't the best season, and I would argue that they focused on two characters that I think are favorites for casual viewers and not for obsessive
Book
viewers. I
viewers.
don't know. Dany and Jon Snow were kind of the big two characters. I felt like Tyrion took a real back seat, and he's always
Yes.
been kind of their star. So I was really surprised when he won the Emmy. Not that I don't. I mean, I think other people deserved it over him. I think for that category, I would have liked Jeffrey Wright to win from Westworld. He was the one that I was really wanting. If I'm thinking of the right category. But Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who plays Jamie, was also nominated, and I think he had the best season ever. I think he did phenomenal, and the fact that he's not been
Well,
nominated until this season
weren't
is
they
really
nominated
annoying.
in the same category?
They were, and
Yeah,
I think
that's
Jamie, I think Nikolai should have won because he did great this season, and
agreed.
his best season I think was probably when he had his hand chopped off.
Oh,
He was
why?
so great around those episodes in particular. I believe he should have won an Emmy for the bath scene with Brienne because I
Mm-hmm.
think you learn so much about his character. Jamie's my favorite character on the whole show. I think a lot of people who are kind of more casual viewers really like Jon and really like Dany, and I do like both of them, but you can tell that they kind of made this season to be about those two, and in my opinion they're kind of the most uninteresting out of everyone, and they're kind of not it's not they're bad actors. It's just when you have like Lena Headey and Nikolai and Peter Dinklage, I mean, who are just freaking phenomenal actors, they kind of take a back seat to them, and I think that's kind of where this season kind of went wrong a little bit. But
See,
it's such a
Dani
great
was
show.
never my favorite. I didn't like her for a really long time.
She was my early favorite, like when I first started watching the show, and I was like, yeah, girl power. But Cersei was always a big favorite of mine, even though I hate her as a character. I love to hate her, and the acting, no one could do that
No.
role like Lena Headey does. So I think she's phenomenal. She's easily the best actress in the show. Easily the best actress in the show. So for people to automatically always go to like Dany and Emilia Clarke, I don't know. I always find that kind of frustrating. But
I mean, I would be really interested to see the age groups and broken down by like favorite character by age groups.
Jamie is my favorite character. Who's your favorite
Yeah.
character?
Um,
I like the Lannisters just in general. They're my favorites.
Either Jamie or Brienne. I feel like really.
Ugh.
I know. I know. I mean,
Ugh.
Jamie. I love Jamie, but he was kind of an asshole to begin with.
But his redemption story.
But his
though.
redemption was really nice. But Brienne was pretty. She was a solid character from beginning to hopefully end. We'll see. But
Brienne
to
is an
current,
extremely overlooked character.
yes. And so I
And
feel like
her
that's
and
probably
Jamie's scenes are some of the best.
yes.
But they get overlooked very, very quickly. I
When
do
they
love
when
Gwendolyn Christie. We both have huge girl crushes on Gwendolyn Christie, so maybe we're a bit biased, but
we probably are really biased, but she's amazing, so
yeah.
I don't feel too bad.
I would say the Lannisters overall are like my favorite characters. I love the Lannisters. I know both of us really loved Peter Baelish.
Oh my god, yeah.
I know
Yeah.
a lot of people hated him. I think that's another reason why I think this season was when they went back to Winterfell and Peter
Right.
Baelish died and everything, and that was such a weak storyline to me. And it was such a crappy way for Peter Baelish to die because
I think
he was
I think
so
that was it.
clever, and he was stupid at the
And
end.
he got played out. Yeah, he got played out by them.
It didn't make sense to look at, like, when you, because we're rewatching the series right now, and the whole show wouldn't exist if it weren't for Baelish. He kind of started everything, really, if you think about it. So
Absolutely.
the fact that he had such kind of a crummy demise and he didn't get to, like, do one of his amazing dialogues or outwit everyone or something. I love Peter Baelish.
I was glad that, like, the younger girls kind of got band together. Like, I liked that part of it. I liked that they were able to overcome it, but at the same time, Littlefinger wasn't that character that was going to be brushed aside that easily. At least that's what I always
predictable
felt.
too.
Right.
Like, everyone was like, "Oh my God, is Sansa gonna betray Arya? Is Arya gonna betray Sansa?" And I was like, "No, it's a ploy." Like,
right, right.
I didn't really think about it once. I don't know. Anyway, this season, I mean, it was good. It was just, I think a lot of the shock value of it caused people to think they like it a lot more than they did. Everyone knew Dany and Jon were going to get together. I don't know why that was such a surprise in the end. If you're a book reader, then or if you know someone that's a book reader, then you probably know.
I was to say, like, I already know a lot of it because of you.
You knew who Jon was anyway because of the theories that surround him, even though it hadn't been confirmed in the books. You knew already, and so it wasn't a surprise. I remember I had a big party at my house, at my apartment, and we watched it with a few other people, and everyone was just so like, "Oh my God," and I was like, "Huh." But that's like his aunt, man. And I don't know. I have a lot of expectations for the final season. And I have a lot of expectations for what they do as far as spin-offs, because apparently there are like 4 in the works or something stupid, but I think only one's been confirmed. And I don't recall what it's about. I want one about Robert's Rebellion, though. That's what I want. So,
I mean, I feel as if there's a lot of reasons why this is... I mean, I say so low, but it's still pretty high. I watch a lot of television, so 5th is not low, but there's a reason why it's number 5, and I feel as if it's because it went such an odd direction, and there's such a huge cast, and we paid attention to 2 people last season.
Yeah, I
2 people who,
a lot
like
of
you said,
side brushed.
Right, exactly.
And they get side brushed over dumb things sometimes. Like, I would much rather know more about, like, Catelyn Stark and what happened after she died than I would to see, like,
why would you bring her up?
4 sex scenes in a brothel with Peter Baelish.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That are 20 minutes long each. I'm good without that, but thanks. I'd much rather have Lady Stoneheart.
I was really hoping for that when you told me that happened in the books.
And it was like, it's stuff like bringing Uncle Benjen back. Everyone, like, who read the books kind of had a theory that he was Cold Hands. And then they don't even really say that character's name in the show. And then it just, he kind of shows up and then he, like, disappears again. And you're like, oh, okay, bye. And let's not even talk about the White Walkers that can't swim but can apparently get in water and tie chains around a dragon. I don't understand, but whatever.
I think that's a lot of the complaints of last season. And once again, why it's so low.
Yeah. I wrote under here, I wrote little notes. I put fantastic characters with wonderful female representation. It makes you like the bad guys because it makes you confused as to who to root for because it's a lot of gray area. And I love shows like that. I love gray area shows. I hate good versus evil shows that are like black and white. I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Jaime and Brienne are the greatest couple on television. Even if they're not a couple yet. They love each other, so it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, I wrote that they had... It was probably my more popular show.
Yeah,
true.
That's the truth.
That's very true. And that they do have fantastic writing, but that they lose themselves in it sometimes. And I think that's pretty...
Yeah, that's a
true.
D&D thing.
Yeah.
The producers.
Yeah, I feel like it's a great show and then it gets lost somewhere and it constantly has to like drag itself out of it.
Yeah,
much like the dragon.
That too. It's great. You can't deny that it's great. Everyone loves it. Everyone thinks it's great. You can't deny that it's beautiful and everything like that. But
right.
There are a lot of times when I kind of scratch my head about it. It made me think of that scene where like they had to like rip all that shit off Jorah. that I had to leave. I had to physically
Oh,
leave the room for.
I
And you
remember
guys
that.
were like, "Oh, this is like peel porn," and I was like, "Ugh," and I had to like actually leave because I got
He's
ill.
another character I love.
Love him. He's a great
I
character.
love him.
Great character. All right, so number 5 was the same. I don't think number 4 will be because I don't think you've watched this show yet. Um, for me, I put Westworld, another HBO show. Easily the best show. I don't know. This and the next show are the best shows in my opinion of the last like 15 years. Well,
That is a really
that's not
big.
true. That's not true. The last like 8. Yeah, the last like 8 years. Westworld is amazing. It's based on a movie, but it has the exact same things I love about Game of Thrones, which is a very high production value. It's beautiful. The sets are beautiful. The actors are phenomenal. I think the best on TV right now, honestly, if I'm being like super real. They have Tandy Newton, who is the best actress on TV. Thank God she won that Emmy because I was going to flip. That show, I cry all the time during that show because I grow to care so much about those characters. I guess I realized kind of that Game of Thrones wasn't my favorite show when I realized how much I loved the characters in Westworld over Game of Thrones. And Westworld has a lot of characters. A lot of characters. And the fact that like they can do an episode about a character who you rarely see and he speaks another language pretty much the whole time. And yeah, I could just sit there and cry over it for 20 minute after. That's, not all the shows can do that. And it's great. And it's beautiful and it's confusing. I love how confusing it is. I know that turns people off, but it's
It
just
turned me off.
that one episode you watched,
The one episode.
which was that episode that I was just talking about. But it's so good. It's so good. Even the smaller characters are just phenomenal, and the music's phenomenal, and they do like their own versions of like rock songs and stuff, and I think that's awesome. I don't know. There's something about that show that I just love the concept of it. It's very sci-fi. It's very gritty. It's almost a little bit kind of steampunky, but like I don't know.
And
Just
see,
the way that it's filmed too is beautiful. I just think
I
it's
think
amazing.
that's why you like it. Just for me looking in at you, you love steampunk, whether you admit it or not. Like, and not that you're like, no, I won't admit it. Just like, I don't think you ever really go and say that you like it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like you are always drawn to that. You used to make me play Minecraft in steampunk style.
Yeah, it's such a pretty setting and environment. And, the timeline in it is so great too. I mean, I know again a lot of people complain about that because you have to literally look at a timeline in every episode. It feels like because there's flashbacks and misplaced timelines and stuff that goes back years and years and years and stuff that happened, 2 weeks ago that feel like they're happening at the same time, like in season 2. I love the fact that it gets kind of psychological towards the end of the second season. I really like that. I know, again, a lot of other people did not, but I did. I thought it was very Lost-like, and I like that. Anthony Hopkins is great. Yeah, I can't really say anything else. I can't say anything bad about that show. I literally couldn't find one thing to say bad about it. I love all of it.
Which your next 3 better be fantastic then.
They are. They are. The next one was tied with this one, but beat it by a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So what's your number 4?
My number 4, okay. So Stargate. And I was tempted to put, well, I almost put universe as in the Stargate universe, but then I remembered they
That
came
one.
out with another series.
What was that one called?
It was,
Takeoff of Firefly one?
wasn't it Universe? Stargate Universe?
Was it Stargate Universe?
I'm
Where they're on
almost
the
positive.
ship?
I'm almost positive, yes.
I don't remember, but it was awful.
It was awful. But, I mean, so when I say Stargate, I obviously mean SG-1 and then Atlantis, which we both watched. SG-1 is one of those shows where I watched it when I was really young, and so it's sentimental to me. And it's something that when I get upset, when I get, like, what do I want to watch? It's the one thing I can turn on and start from the very beginning and finish the entire 10 season show in a month, if not sooner.
That was back in the day too, when like TV actually had like 24 episodes.
You just sit there and it's
you don't realize how odd that is until you start rewatching
have to sit
a show.
there. Yeah,
I'm watching The Americans right now, and it's like 11, 12 episodes a season, and it feels so long to me. But then I try to rewatch something from like the early 2000s, and it's like 25 episodes. I'm like, oh my god.
I feel Stargate is one of those shows where it's kind of like the crime shows where every episode is something different, but there's an overall arc.
Yeah.
And I just love that type of show. And I think a couple of my other shows are like that too.
Yep.
And so I clearly just love that type of filming. And you can't sit there and be like, it's not Game of Thrones. If you know, the scenes aren't realistic. They all look like Vancouver because they were filming in Vancouver. But I think the cast was amazing. I think you had like your core group of people that you tuned into, and I really like the whole. I wouldn't say classic sci-fi, but I definitely go for more of like the traditional alien sci-fi, if that's like, I want the Star Trek and I want the Stargate and I want other shows that will be coming up.
You can also do that thing that Teal can do with his eyebrow.
I can't. I practiced one summer and I nailed it. I
remember that from back in the day. You told me that when we were like 16, and I thought it was amazing.
And
to date our timeline.
It's one of those shows where I used to make my brother watch it. And so obviously the theme song is, if you hear like 3 notes, you know it's Stargate. And so they came up with a song, the writers did. And so I always taught Lucas that song, and to this day he can still sing it.
That's adorable.
Truly amazing.
Like a little bit off, but it's adorable. I love it.
I mean, that's probably our relationship, is a little bit off, but amazing.
That's the best part, though, is when your family like really understands your television obsession.
Right.
It's like my dad with Breaking Bad. Whenever he watches the end of Breaking Bad, he actually cries, and he's like 68 years old. It's adorable. He loved it so much, though, and it meant so much to him.
Yeah. I think it's just special. Like, it's one of those things where anytime someone's like, hey, do you want to watch a show? I'm like, yes. Have you ever watched Stargate? And if not, sit down.
It takes a specific type of person to be like, no, okay. You gotta be into like sci-fi.
This is true.
But I don't think it's so heavily sci-fi that you couldn't get into it, you know. I watched Stargate pretty early because my mom did. But I was watching Star Trek when I was like 8. So
and
for me, it wasn't that weird.
My mom didn't watch sci-fi at all, but I grew up on Star Trek.
Oh, Sci-Fi Channel back in the day.
# miss it.
To be young again.
To stay home and get to watch, like, binge watch it. That's what I used to do.
Yeah. And on Friday, it would be like, there'd be like a new SG-1, there'd be a new Atlantis, and then there'd be a new Battlestar Galactica. And so you're like 3 hours of your dear Friday night when you're supposed to be out with your friends because you're, 14. That was my Friday night.
It may have caused my introvert ways to shine through.
Yeah. TV does that.
It does. Especially Netflix. I can't imagine having Netflix as a... Oh, we had it. Like, it makes it sound like I'm 90 years old. But...
it wasn't really a thing.
It wasn't as accessible as it is now.
Yeah, I remember getting stuff on like DVD when I was like 18. Having stuff sent to my house and stuff. But...
I can't imagine being able to turn it on the table. Yeah. Turn on a channel and be like, oh, here's Netflix. Watch any show you want. Oh my god, I would never leave my house.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. It's tough now.
It's tough now. Oh my gosh.
Well, okay, so that was 4. So Game of Thrones, Westworld,
Stargate.
Stargate. My number 3, which was kind of tied with 4, probably would be over 4 well, I mean, it'd probably be higher even, rather, if it was on right now. We were talking about how a lot of our shows are based on what you're thinking about right now, what's airing recently. But Mr. Robot, not a lot of people watch it. It's phenomenal. It's so ahead of its time. It's so good. It's amazing. It's one of the only shows that I've ever watched that gets mental illness really, really depicted really well, and in a very real way. And it can be very depressing and very hard to watch at times, but it's great. And it has a very special spot in my heart, because when we went to San Diego Comic-Con, we went to the Mr. Robot event that was held at Petco Park. We were in the second row.
Yeah, I'm so glad I did that. I haven't watched the show
best.
yet, but one day I will, because I watched a couple episodes and I loved it.
Oh, it's so good.
I haven't followed back up with it.
The thing about Mr. Robot that's so interesting is that it literally isn't a copy or a ripoff or it's nothing like that. It's completely different than anything else that's really on TV. I mean, obviously, with some of the aspects, you can kind of see stuff like Fight Club in it and things like that, but it's about, hackers that are, trying to make the world a different place than what it is. A very plausible future, of what could happen with us, given that something like that were to happen. But it's also about mental illness, and it's about, Elliot finding who he is and finding out what's real and what's not real. And you can't really say more than that without giving it away, though, because that'll give away the big secret. But it's
Which
so
I
good.
haven't watched it yet, so don't tell me yet.
It's so good. It's so different. Last season, they had an episode that was like one shot for the whole episode, and it had like no commercial breaks in it because it was one continuous shot. Why they did it, I don't know. Sam Esmail was just like, I thought it'd be cool, so that's what they did. There's like 3 takes in it, I think, where you can see where they stopped recording for like a computer screen or something. But there will be like 20-minute scenes where the camera just follows people. And you can see, if you pay attention to it, you can see like where characters will pop up and then they'll leave the studio and go somewhere else and you'll see them later. And it's amazing. It was so weird to watch live because it took you like a few minutes to figure out what they were doing. And it was like, oh, wow. But it's just the way that it's filmed. It's very interesting. They had a VR experience when we went to Comic-Con. That was really cool.
That was really cool.
The acting...
Kind of scary.
Yeah, it was kind of scary. The acting in it's incredible. Rami Malek is like my husband, so I have to support him and love him forever. I love him so much. But he's phenomenal. I mean, he is great. He's so good, and he's so... I don't know. He does all his acting with his big buggy eyes, and I love him. I love him.
I'm really excited for his new show.
His new
Quick
show?
plug. I'm sorry, his new movie.
Oh, Bohemian
Quick
Rhapsody.
plug.
Me too. He does have a new show coming out, though. He's making one with Sam Esmail, who made Mr. Robot. I think it's like an FBI show or something.
Oh, interesting. I do love the
very
FBI.
Interested. But he's great. I mean, he could do any role, and I would be like, sign me up, because he's just such a emotional actor.
I gave you a really hard time for liking him to begin with, and then I watched a couple episodes, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like
He just rips your soul out and tears it in two, and then puts it
Well,
back in, and you're like...
And then I mean, I don't want to say I met him, but like I saw him, and he is the sweetest guy. Like,
He's so
what
sweet.
the heck?
And he has like a slight lisp, and it's adorable.
Same.
And he's really nice. He's very, very nice. And I've heard that, like, you can hear like interviews where people talk about how nice he is. And Christian Slater is in it as well, and he's great. I don't know, like all the smaller
What's your
actors
favorite?
that are in
What's
it,
your
too.
favorite scene?
Oh gosh, I don't know. There's a scene in I believe it was season 2. It's been a while since I've watched or like rewatched it, and it's supposed to be coming out here soon, here in a couple months, I think, for the final season. But it's a scene where there's a shooting at a diner, and it's a continuous shot, so the shot actually doesn't
I actually
break.
know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so one of the characters, Dom, she walks into the diner, and like a bike drives by and shoots through the glass, and she disappears behind a table, and when she gets back up she's all bloody, and she goes back outside and goes up to the camera, but it's like a continuous shot the whole time, and it was beautifully done. It was so good. Ugh. But I don't know, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of, I don't know, there's this one episode where Elliot's like going crazy and he imagines like what his life would be like in like a sitcom, and it's really weird. But I love it. I don't know, it's just phenomenal. And all the side actors too on it, the actors I'd never heard of before, they're all great, and they're able to keep up with it. So it's wonderful.
I need to watch it. Need to watch it.
What is your number 3?
Oh, my number 3. Okay, so it's been going back and forth, but I think I finally settled it. I'm gonna go with Once Upon a Time.
Wow.
I know.
Number 3?
Number 3.
You can't put that next to Mr. Robot.
I mean, I didn't know we were gonna put it up against each other.
Yeah.
But
cool. I'm just surprised it's that low.
I know, and for those of you who don't follow me, I go to a lot of their conventions, so one would think that it's much higher. But the writing just isn't there. It was, and then it left. And I think the acting is still fantastic when they get the scripts that are good. And I think that the concept was amazing. I think season 1 is probably one of my favorite seasons of television.
Season 1 was good.
Season 1 was amazing. The first episode, I remember watching it and just falling in love with it. And so I think I will always have such high regards for the show because I know what it could have been. And I think the actors were such like a cast that was a family. And those are my favorite types of shows when I can see that the cast are actual family.
Oh, word.
I love that. That makes me so emotional. I don't care how bad the acting gets, as long as they're still family. Like, it's horrible.
That's one of the reasons why I'm slightly still interested in like The Walking Dead, even though I haven't watched it for like 3 seasons. I love a lot of the actors, and the fact that they've been together for so long. Like, I still kind of follow them. I just don't follow the show. And I've met all of them pretty much, so it's hard.
It's exactly that, because I still go to the conventions, and I still have a lot of friends that love the show and obsess over the show. And while I still have my moments of watching that, I love the show. I can never say that I don't. But some of it got lost in fanslation, as I always say. Because
lost in what now? Fanslation? I like that.
Yeah, fanslation. Because they gave fans what they wanted, but to its own demise.
Yeah. Whereas Walking Dead did the opposite.
Right. I mean, I think Once Upon a Time and The Walking Dead...
quite similar.
Yeah, I think they are. I think the first seasons are amazing. And then each season kind of becomes more of just a
continuation that doesn't need to be continued.
I mean, we could have stopped Once Upon a Time. I think, okay, so if we're talking about this and where did Once Upon a Time start to lose my adoration, it would have to be in season 4 when Frozen had just come out and they immediately brought them onto the show. That's not, like, you don't plan a show like that, in my opinion. You have to give it a lot of thought and sit there and say, where do we want to go from here? How is this going to affect, our current cast? And you can't just have a really big show come out and then jump into the same thing on a really big movie come out and then put that on a show. It just doesn't work.
I'd already stopped watching by then, but I know I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. I just know that Elizabeth Mitchell was in it, and I tried to watch it.
So cute.
But I was like, maybe not.
Right. I mean, it's just, God.
It's
rough. I mean, mainly because Josh Dallas and Jennifer Goodwin, I'll watch until whenever, but it's it's just hard seeing a show that was so good in season 1, and like even you'll admit that it was great in season 1. Seeing it go from that to what it was is really upsetting. So that's why it's number 3.
I don't remember much about it now, like looking back on it. That's kind of the sad thing.
Well, it has that whole thing that you don't like about TV shows where it has a lot of flashbacks. Isn't that what you don't like?
No. I mean, no. I can't spoil my favorite show ever, but it's full of flashbacks.
Well, there was something, because we watched the first season, I was like, you have to watch it, because we went out to Anaheim.
It was very quick, and it's very tropey, I think, is my issue with it. And I don't know. I think it tried really hard to be a bunch of other things, and then it took a while to find its niche, and then it kind of tried to be other things right after that, too.
See, I would
disagree with... And it tried to monetize off Frozen, which I guess everything did. And that was kind of annoying, and...
With that, yes. But I think it found its niche pretty fast just because of it's Disney. It never, like, they try to switch it up. They try to be like, what if the evil queen wasn't so evil? Like, what if we, you know... And so I think they found their market pretty quick, but then they just let it go.
No pun intended.
For the... Oh my god. Yeah, definitely no pun intended.
No pun intended.
But... That's my third one. It was, I think, if there was one thing, it was lost in translation, which is so sad for me.
It is. It is sad, because it is like Walking Dead, though, even though I didn't really watch it. You could tell that, like, the viewers were going down, and people weren't liking it as much, and even really dedicated fans were getting kind of fed up. That's my favorite thing to see about Walking Dead with the people that still watch it, is that they get so pissed, but they still watch it.
I find and the reason why it's so similar, and the reason why I guess I'd never thought about it like that, was the convention scenes are so big still. I still go to Once Upon a Time conventions, and they're still big. Yeah. And
the Walking Dead ones are still huge.
Exactly, and they're such dedicated fans, and they still watch it, and they still go, talk about it. But then you sit there, and especially, I mean, not to get too involved, but with one certain couple, they're still upset about how it ended, and they're still so passionate. And to see like front runners or showrunners just ignore that.
Are you talking about Walking Dead couple or Once Upon a Time?
Oh, Once Upon a Time. So sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought I knew what you were talking about. Never mind.
Well,
I thought you were trying to trigger me personally, and I was like, no.
Ironically, I mean, Robin and Regina is mine, but then Carol and Daryl is yours on The Walking Dead.
Carol and Daryl. I just can't.
To see showrunners just ignore something is so crazy to me. Yeah, that's why it's
Walking Dead went really wrong, though, is that, and not just with Carol and Daryl, but they wrote so much into making certain storylines be great, and then they just we're like, nah, let's just change your mind.
Yeah, like kicked it under the rug, and you're like, okay, this is great.
It's stupid. And a lot of times they did it to bring in these storylines that they thought would really impact it. Like, I'll never forget when we went to San Diego Comic-Con, it was the year that Negan season came out. Yeah. And everyone, I mean, Comic-Con, the badge had Negan on it. There was this big Walking Dead thing where I'll have to put pictures in where you could take pictures with the Negan's lineup and stuff. I mean, it was all about Negan. And then Negan actually came out, and it ended up being super low rated, and no one really liked it. They lost a lot of viewers because of how violent it was. I read the comics, so up until when I stopped watching the show, I stopped reading the comics. But I was super excited for Negan. And I just don't think that his kind of a character comes across that well on a show like on a channel like AMC. And I think it took people off guard a little bit, and they never really recovered from that, I don't think. This season is season 9. It just premiered yesterday. Last night, 2 nights ago, something like that. And it's the lowest ratings, lowest viewers they've had since season 1.
That's...
One.
Have they gotten renewed for another season? Because I know at one time it was 2 seasons in advance.
I don't know. I know that they did. I read an article that was them talking about how if AMC had their way, Walking Dead would not end at all.
That is crazy to me.
And that it would just keep going. They'd keep having spinoffs. But I can't see how they're making that much money out of it anymore.
I mean, unless if they're getting convention money, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, conventions are ridiculous. People want to meet Norman Reedus like 45 times. I don't understand, but...
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. Anyway.
Wow, that would went off.
We'll talk to do a whole video on Walking Dead and how disappointed I am in my life.